Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everybody, wherever you are in the world. A warm welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Nasim Zehra. I'm a journalist and writer based in Pakistan. I thought it's important to convey some interesting developments that took place with relation to Pakistan's foreign policy articulation and policy, how Pakistan looks at the world. Yesterday, our young foreign minister Bilawal Bhutto spoke at the UN, and it was very encouraging to see the young man speak with facts and with logic, and with a calm and poise that is becoming of a person in that position, foreign minister of a country of 220 million people, a country which is indeed going through financial problems, some political instability, but inherently a country which is very strong, a nuclear power. So, but before I go to that, let me just say that some nations, nations are really like human beings. There is something called genes, right? So you have a DNA that you're born with. So what is Pakistan's DNA when it comes to international affairs and Pakistan's foreign policy? Pakistan was only 8 months old, and it was a country that was born in trouble, in difficulty. It was a country that was, India was divided into two, and Pakistan was born. And so the world saw Pakistan as a country which wasn't viable politically; it wouldn't survive. That there were problems at its borders. That Afghanistan wasn't accepting us. India had trouble with us, and magazines like Life magazine, etc., the United States were declaring that it's not a country that's going to survive. But nevertheless, the founder of the nation, Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, wrote a letter to the U.S. President, then U.S. President Mr. Truman, Harry Truman, and he wrote in that letter the following things: that the creation of Israel is a crime against humanity. History will not forgive you for this, will not forgive us, those of us who remain quiet, because the Palestinians were denied their homeland. And homeland was snatched from them and given to the Zionists of that time. So, I mean, I'm sure you were all aware of the history, the bloodshed that was, that had prefaced the creation of Israel. So Pakistan, this is Pakistan's DNA, that fearlessly the Qaid wrote, who was then the Governor General of Pakistan, to Harry Truman, President Harry Truman. And so that's the history, that's where we come from. And following that, when it came to Morocco and Tunisia, the countries in the Maghreb, they were fighting for their independence against the French, against French colonization, and Pakistan then helped these countries through diplomatic means, etc., giving passports, issuing passports, so they could move around easily, their leaders from these three countries. So this is really where Pakistan comes from. And then Pakistan stood up for the rights of the Kashmiri, and up and down the support went, but it was there. And then the support for the Palestinians, and then for the Bosnians, and so on and so forth. So Bilawal Bhutto, fourth generation since the creation of Pakistan, he spoke at the United Nations yesterday, and I'd encourage everyone to listen to that press conference. As a Pakistani, working on international affairs, I'm very proud that he spoke with the poise, the courage, with the logic and facts the way he did. So he was asked a question on India and on Prime Minister Modi, and the question was prompted by what had been said a day earlier by the Indian foreign minister, who as per habit, was criticizing Pakistan and holding it responsible for spreading terrorism. So here's what Bilawal Bhutto said. Number one, he said, well, you see, Pakistan is the country that has suffered the most. People have died. His mother died of, she was targeted, she's a victim of terrorism. She lost her life. And he recounted other kind of incidents and examples. And how many people, 90,000 plus, we have lost lives in terrorism and continue to. But the Indian state, and especially under Prime Minister Modi, has used terrorism as a foreign policy ploy. Number one, inflicting terrorism in the countries around it. It has inflicted terrorism first on its own people, whether it's the movements in the north, but also against the Muslims. And Pakistan has recently yet again shared a dossier of Indian involvement with evidence, Indian involvement in terrorism against Pakistan in Lahore, in Johar town, a small place where an Indian national with links to RAW actually came and detonated a bomb, and some people were killed as well. So he spoke about that, and then he said, he reminded the world about the reality of who India's Prime Minister Modi is. Sure, the Indian people have elected him, but equally important, if not more important, is the reality that he's the butcher of Gujarat. And the butcher of Gujarat, indeed, as Bilawal Bhutto said, is still alive. And the butcher of Gujarat has then basically unloaded state terrorism on the people of Kashmir, on the people of Gujarat, and on the Muslims of India. And the world doesn't want to think about it and wants to ignore it. But indeed, that's the reality. And that's the reality that he had reminded the world of yesterday, in addition to the fact that India, Indian foreign minister and the leadership had unveiled the statue of Gandhi's, and Bilawal Bhutto was smart enough to say that, hey, you guys, what is this hypocrisy? Actually, BJP loathes Gandhi and is on record criticizing him, and in fact they lionize, and their hero is the guy who actually assassinated Gandhi. So this is the kind of hypocrisy that rules India right now. Sure, it's democratic, but the reality has to be stated. And to then be blaming Pakistan when India is using terrorism as a ploy to benefit itself diplomatically, to basically try and undermine Pakistan, and it's actually involved state terrorism, active state terrorism. Important to realize that, and that BJP draws its inspiration from Hitler's RSS, as its records also show. So it was important to recall that. And for those in the West and in other countries who keep hoping that Pakistan and India will become close friends, and I think countries have, our friends in the West have hoped that Pakistan will forget about Kashmir and that Pakistan will just, forget about all the other things and get into trade relationship and so on with India. We certainly want that. We would like to have good trade relations, but certainly not in a situation where India has completely ignored and heavily violated the UN resolutions on Kashmir. And in addition to that, India is not willing to play by any rules when it comes to Pakistan. So 3 or 4 quick things. Number one, its attack on Balakot 2 years ago. Before that, in 2019, violating resolutions of Kashmir, ending the special status of Kashmir, which was not good enough, but still it was better than where they landed Kashmir today. And then in March, April, their BrahMos missile, an advanced missile, landed in the heart of Pakistan. And with the Pakistan's fault, we didn't speak loud enough at that point. But the world was quiet, and had it been the reverse, we can imagine what the world would have done. So, yes, my friends who are listening to this will say, well, so what muscle does Pakistan have? Economic muscle. It can just keep complaining. No, that's not the point. Pakistan, yes, it is a weak economic muscle. It has to work, and inshallah will work on that. There is a realization for the first time in Pakistan on that front. But in addition to that, Pakistan also understands that you run the world by rules. That's how the world will become a peaceful place where codependence and coexistence is going to work. And hence our position on the UN Security Council expansion. There can't be more vetoes handed out at all. Pakistan is very clear on that. So remember that Pakistan is no ordinary pushover country. Pakistan is a country that believes in principles to a certain extent, can't be idealistic, but certainly believes in principles to a great extent, and on issues close to home, whether it's Kashmir, and we made committed blunders in East Pakistan, and we speak about it. We understand that we regret what happened, but where we stand today, we are very clear that relationship with India will only improve, will only normalize if India decides to play by the rules. And those of you who are interested in Pakistan's foreign policy stance, whether it's on the Iranian women uprising, and whether it's on issues in Palestine, or whether it is Ukraine, or whether it is what's happening in Afghanistan, watch that press conference. It's a great press conference. Anyway, good to connect with all of you, and until next time, goodbye and Khudafiz. Pakistan Zindabad.